Political moves unfolding by the day ahead of the deadline for the substitution of aspirants for the 2022 elections. This time, it is Sara Duterte resigning from her local party, the Hugpong ng Pagbabago. A week since Metro Manila shifted to a lower alert level, a presidential advisor and business leader suggests downgrade even further. Find out what health officials have to say. And singer-actress Nadine Lustre has a project in the pipeline aside from a new film and a song. Well, except for news that Sara Duterte quit her local party, the Hugpong ng Pagbabago, information is scarce about what the president's daughter's plans really are. But the country got a glimpse of how strange Philippine politics is with pictures from the wedding of Senator Bong Revilla's daughter in Silang, Cavite, where the Davao City Mayor, former Senator Bongbong Marcos, and Senator Bato de la Rosa are all principal sponsors. Now, another major move from the presidential daughter, Sara Duterte Carpio, resigning, like we said, from her local political party, the regional party Hugpong ng Pagbabago. Now, this comes days after she withdrew her re-election bid as mayor of Davao City and just days before the deadline for the substitution of aspirants in the 2022 elections. In a handwritten letter, Mayor Duterte stated, quote, "It is with profound sadness that I tender my resignation from our beloved party. My support will always be with you, and I will always be grateful for all the things you have taught me," unquote. The Secretary General of Hugpong, Anthony Del Rosario, confirmed this, saying they are saddened by her leaving, but wishes her the best in her future plans. Sara Duterte flew to Balasin Island province earlier today for the birthday celebration of her ally, House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. Balasin Island is a luxury resort exclusive to members. Social media was abuzz that Duterte will meet with former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo and other lawmakers so that she can join the Casa MD political party amid speculation that she will file as the substitute candidate in a national post. Arroyo's team has denied there is a scheduled meeting in Balasin. Another ally, Representative Joey Salceda, says Mayor Duterte is likely to be La Casa CMD's standard bearer. Now, from a birthday celebration to a wedding ceremony, Sara Duterte also attending the wedding of Senator Bong Revilla's daughter in Cavite. Other political figures were in attendance, including presidential aspirants Bongbong Marcos and Bato de la Rosa. Our Rex Mito joins us live from the town of Silang. Rex, what do we know so far?
Well, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte and presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos both attended the wedding of Senator Bong Revilla's daughter, Jana. It's the first time the two were seen together since Mayor Duterte withdrew her re-election bid, fueling speculations she would finally seek a national post next year. They shared some light moments as they were both principal sponsors of the wedding of Jana Revilla and Jen Patricio in Silang, Cavite. It's not clear though if they discuss a possible battle for the 2020 elections, although Marcos has said he will pursue the presidency. His statement comes amid talks he will slide down to be Mayor Duterte's vice presidential running mate.
So tuloy na tuloy pa rin, sir, for president?
Ako?
Yes.
For president po kayo.
Examine my situation. I have nowhere else to go. I cannot go anywhere, and I cannot change. I will not change parties. I do not have. I entered this race not to play any of this substitution, play with the rules. I entered this because I felt I should run for president, and that's what I'm doing.
What if Mayor Sara runs for president?
Then she will run. What else can I say?
Mayor Duterte already resigned from her regional party Hugpong ng Pagbabago, but she has so far refused to comment on her next step, much more on Marcos's latest statement.
Mga supporters ko, and I hope na kung ano mang mga mangyari sa mga sumusunod na mga araw ay maibigay ko sa kanila kung ano yung gusto nila.
Meanwhile, Casa MD Chair Bong Revilla says there's a possibility the mayor would join their party, but adds they will still wait for her next move. Casa MD is led by former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. As for another presidential aspirant, Senator Bato de la Rosa, he did not address speculation. He will withdraw his certificate of candidacy as a standard bearer of the ruling PDP Laban party. He says he will also wait for Mayor Duterte's next announcement and President Duterte's orders, saying he's a good soldier. But De La Rosa says he still prefers Mayor Duterte to run for president. He believes the presidential daughter is the most winnable among all presidential hopefuls. Now, both Mayor Duterte and Marcos have left the venue right after the wedding. They will no longer attend the reception. So up to this moment, we're still trying to know whether or not they will still meet to discuss their election plans. Back to you.
Well, Rex, what was the mood at the wedding like, given that, you have this dark cloud of uncertainty, political uncertainty hovering over them, including, Mayor Sara and Senator Bong Marcos and Senator Bato de la Rosa?
Well, that's right. So before the wedding, they went into a reception where different politicians were having small talk, except for Mayor Duterte, who arrived just shortly before the ceremonies have started. They exchanged pleasantries and, of course, congratulated Revilla and her daughter for her special day. It's unlikely they will discuss their plans for the 2022 elections here at the venue. They will no longer join the reception that other politicians will attend. What we know so far is that Marcos is not backing down from the presidential race, and Duterte has yet to reveal her next move. It's still unclear if there will be a Marcos Duterte or a Duterte Marcos. Back to you.
Rex Remigio there, reporting from Silang, Cavite. Well, Senator Bongo denies he will withdraw from the vice presidential race. Go says he has been a vice presidential aspirant under the ruling party PDP Laban for the last 40 days. But when asked about his plans, Go says the public should just wait for what's next in the coming days. The senator earlier hinted at possible changes in his bid. On Tuesday, Go was present in Malacanang when President Rodrigo Duterte met with Senator Manny Pacquiao, who is aspiring to be president also. The meeting happened months after their public word war amid tensions within their political party. Malacanang says it has no idea how the renewal of friendship between the two will affect the presidential run of the boxing icon. When pressed for more details, spokesperson Harry Roque said he was not privy to the details of the meeting other than what were relayed to him.
Ngayon po, it was a friendly meeting. It was a reunion of sorts between two leaders from Mindanao. Iwan na lang po natin doon yun sa ngayon.
Pacquiao, meanwhile, maintains he will push through with his 2022 presidential bid. In a statement, he said, quote, "Walang atrasan, tuloy ang laban," unquote. There are so far nearly 65 million people registered to vote in next year's elections. Based on the latest data from the Commission on Elections, there were 64.2 million registered voters, including 1.69 million from overseas as of September 30, when the registration period first ended. An additional 1.2 million got listed when the voter registration was extended from October 11 to 30. Over 60,000 others abroad also signed up to vote in the 2022 polls. The Comelec has yet to consolidate the data from other field offices and is expected to release the final figures next week. Coming up on Newsnight, a presidential advisor pushes for more relaxed restrictions on travelers, but the health department says not so fast. And from a new song and acting projects to starting a company, Nadine Lustre is doing it all. Find out what's in store for fans when we return. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Is it time to further ease travel and movement restrictions this coming holiday season? Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion believes it is, as a research group gives a hopeful outlook on the country's COVID-19 trends. Caroline Bonkin has more.
As restrictions in many provinces ease, independent research group Octa sees a Merry Christmas. Octa says the trend continues to go down, and the COVID situation in Metro Manila is now better even when compared to where it was in November last year.
We are at the point where we might reach a plateauing sometime soon, or the cases might decrease further because of the continued vaccination rollout. The decrease may have slowed down a little bit.
Ang COVID-19 nandito pa, nakakahawa siya, nakakamatay siya. Itong mga trends na ito ay hindi permanente. Kung magpapabaya tayo, kung di tayo mag-iingat, maaaring mag-reverse itong mga trends na ito at tumaas ang mga kaso.
If the situation continues to improve, the private sector hopes for a further de-escalation of the alert level.
By December, at least December 1, we should move towards alert level 1. If, as Professor Guido has presented, cases will continue to go down and hopefully we continue to maintain it where it is.
For Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion, there's no time to waste. Government and the private sector should take advantage of this lull in COVID spikes to vaccinate more people in the provinces. He says there would be less to worry about if more people are fully vaccinated in case of another surge.
When we say, okay, cases are going up to 1,000, 2,000, let's lock down. Let's hold back. Who are those getting infected? If it's the unvaccinated, yes, then we should be concerned. But if it is the vaccinated that are getting infected, then let's not be concerned about it. Of course, there is some risk that they will land in the hospital, but a greater percentage, 70, 80% of them will just get well at home.
The other pitch, reduce or remove quarantine restrictions for fully vaccinated international travelers. Instead, he's proposing a COVID test 48 hours before departure and another test upon arrival.
We really should open up to balikbayans wanting to come home, eventually tourists fully vaccinated.
Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere says Filipinos should not be complacent. She reminds the public COVID is still here and there's a risk of infection when more people are out and there's less compliance to protocols. She adds, while vaccines can protect us from severe COVID and help decongest hospitals, the fully vaccinated can still get sick and infect others. The health department earlier warned daily active cases could go up to 52,000 if more people are on the move and will put their guards down. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
This just in, some breaking news. Mayor Sara Duterte has taken her oath as a member of the Casa MD. Now, that oath-taking happened at the wedding reception of Senator Bong Revilla's daughter in Silang, Cavite, at his home there. A press release from the office of House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez came out just a few minutes ago, confirming that Mayor Sara Duterte has taken her oath before him. Now, just about an hour or two ago, we got news that Sara Duterte had tendered a resignation from her local party, the regional party, the Hugpong ng Pagbabago, and now she has joined the Casa MD. This is the political party of former President Gloria Arroyo, who was also Pampanga Congresswoman, and also House Speaker. If you remember, it was Sara Duterte's moves that enabled Gloria Arroyo to take over as Speaker of the House of Representatives just after, unseating then Pantaleon Bebot Alvarez. But anyway, La Casa MD also is the political party of former President Fidel V. Ramos. This was his political vehicle in 1992 when he ran for president. Because he had broken away from the LDP at that time in 1992. It was Ramon Monching Mitra who was the administration standard bearer, and FVR had lost that vote in the LDP, so he broke away and formed the Lakas, and that is the party that Sara Duterte is joining now. So there is that news. Makes things a bit clearer now that Sara Duterte is with the Lakas CMD. At the moment, there's a lot of speculation that she might be running for president with the Lakas CMD. Congressman Joey Salcedo of Albay, an ally of hers, had said yesterday that she is sure to run for president, and VP, the option to run for VP was not on the table for her. And Joey Salcedo also saying yesterday that she would be running with the Lakas CMD and not with the PDP Laban, which is her father's political party, the party of President Duterte. So we have that bit of news. Sara Duterte, like we said, taking her oath as a member of the Lakas CMD. Now let's move on. President Duterte approves the nationwide implementation of the alert level system before the year ends. The first phase is ongoing in Metro Manila, the Calabar Zone, and 5 other regions. The executive order states Ilocos, Eastern Visayas, and Soc-Sargen should adopt the system before month's end. Succeeding phases will be carried out every week until the full nationwide implementation in December. The third phase covers Cagayan Valley, Bicol region, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. The final rollout will be in the Cordilleras, Mimaropa, Caraga, and the Bangsamoro region. In the meantime, the Interagency Task Force meets to discuss the face shield mandate and quarantine protocols for incoming passengers. Some local chief executives earlier eased rules on the use of face shields, but the health department asked them to wait for the IATF's final decision. Task Force spokesperson Harry Roque says an announcement on the policies may be out tomorrow when he gets a hard copy of the resolution. Labor and employer groups raised concerns about the government's seeming approval of requiring vaccination for employment after President Duterte earlier said it was legal. The groups fear this could turn into an additional burden for job seekers. Tristan Adalo reports.
You have the right to refuse to accept as an employee of somebody who is not vaccinated.
A labor group says President Rodrigo Duterte's stand on allowing employers to refuse the hiring of unvaccinated people could put workers at a disadvantage.
Nangangamba kami dahil sa kanya mismo nanggaling ganyang polisiya, baka gayahin ng maraming mga kumpanya.
A group of employers admits mechanisms are inadequate to monitor the no vaccine, no hire policy on the ground.
Yung mga nag-a-apply, pagka gusto mo, ayaw mo siya tanggapin dahil hindi siya vaccinated, wala namang magagawa yung nagtatrabaho. Hindi mo kailangan sa visa ano yun eh. But actually, we don't encourage naman, no? Considering na marami naman doon sa nag-a-apply, hindi naman vaccinated, not to the fault of theirs.
Job seeker Edwin Rabanya says he is fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Jam San Juan, another job seeker, also makes sure she's ready in case vaccination will become an employment requirement.
Opo, kailangan po eh. Kaya kami sumusunod lang din po. Yung vaccine po, ayun po lahat hinahanap kahit saan ka pumunta.
Okay na din yung yung ibang employer na nag-aano ng fully vaccinated para na rin po sa kapakanan ng bawat empleyado po.
The Interagency Task Force is set to come up with a resolution clarifying the no vaccine, no hire policy.
Ang ating mga private sector employers ay syempre pangangalagaan din po nila yung kanilang mga existing workers who are already vaccinated.
But for Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, the law is clear that vaccination cannot be a mandatory requirement for employment.
Labor and Employers Group advised the government have enough vaccines first before mandating vaccination among job applicants. They also say that there is a need to make sure that local government units have enough vaccine supply to cater to the demands of workers. They also say that vaccine hesitancy is no longer the problem, but it all boils down to equal access. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
The House panel gives the go signal on a measure seeking to suspend and reduce excise taxes on fuel products. The unnumbered substitute bill halts the higher excise tax on diesel, kerosene, and cooking gas and reduces the tax on low-octane gasoline for tricycles. The measure proposes a 6-month suspension. The excise tax on premium gasoline, meanwhile, will stay. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Joey Salcedo says taxes will be restored once fuel prices normalize. Salcedo adds the House will prioritize the bill's passage, aiming to turn it over to the Senate before the month ends. Now, the Philippines vowed to step up the fight against climate change at the United Nations COP26, among the promises saving our forests in the next decade. But where is the country now in curbing deforestation? Paige Javier takes a look in this special report.
Forests are vital in a tropical country like the Philippines. They provide us with resources and protect us against the impacts of climate change. But our forests are dwindling. Data from the Environment Department shows forest cover has not grown past the average 7 million hectares in recent years. About 154,000 hectares have been lost since 2003. That's about the size of Catanduanes. At the United Nations Climate Summit, or COP26, the Philippines joined the pledge to end deforestation by 2030. But environmental groups say government needs to walk the talk.
So now that there's attention on deforestation, hopefully this translates into something more real when it comes to enforcement and management.
The country does have forest protection laws, but advocates flag the gaps in their implementation.
We do have enough forest protection and laws. The problem is really the enforcement. And so better enforcement of the law would help end deforestation.
The government launched the National Greening Program, or NGP, in 2011. A massive reforestation project designed to plant 1.5 billion trees in 1.5 million hectares in 6 years. The 2019 Commission on Audit report said the growth was marginal. From 2010 to 2015, forest cover increased by 177,000 hectares, way below the target. Groups also questioned the low survival rate of the new trees.
If you use indigenous species, obviously the survival of the tree will be much better. It will be much better suited to sustain strong winds from storms.
Saving our forests does not stop with planting trees. We must build a culture of conservation. One example lies about 52 kilometers east of Metro Manila. The Masungi Geo-Reserve is a globally recognized geotourism hub in Rizal, a product of decades' worth of private sector-led conservation work. The group is now restoring nearly 3,000 hectares of degraded land, but various threats like land grabbers and illegal loggers are stalling their efforts.
It matters that government takes the helm, takes the lead, because enforcement is heavily reliant on them. Even up to now, we're fending for ourselves. And we have no idea where government is.
The DENR proposed arming forest rangers and creating an enforcement bureau that will deal with environmental crimes. It takes a village to bring forests back to life, and advocates hope to get more people involved in conservation. Mother Nature has been sending us a stern message. It's time to respond before it's too late. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
Now, this breaking news just in Malacanang has announced the appointment of one more commissioner for the Commission on Elections. If you remember, there are supposed to be 7 commissioners, but there are only 6 at present, well, at least until today. This last 7th spot was vacant for quite a while. They have appointed a certain Mr. Ray E. Bulay, and Harry Roque confirming that appointment to the Commission on Elections for his term expiring on February 2, 2027. Each Comelec Commissioner is given a 6-year term, and they cannot return after that. Harry Roque is saying, we are confident that Attorney Bulay will ensure the conduct of honest, orderly, credible, and peaceful elections. Now, 3 other commissioners are going to be retiring from the commission before the elections in February, and among them will be the chairman of the Comelec, Sharif Abbas, and 2 more commissioners, and one of them, Rowena Guanzon. So that will mean that Malacanang will have to be appointing 3 more commissioners to the Comelec. In the meantime, straight ahead on Newsnight, Nadine Lustre is partnering with Liza Soberano on a new project not for the big screen, but for an important advocacy. And it seems everyone, including a New York landmark, is hyped up for Taylor Swift's next release. Details after the break. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Triple threat Nadine Lustre is bearing even more projects, not just for her fans, but also for those in need of mental health services. The singer-actress is keeping busy with her recent release, pop single, Wait For Me. But as she told CNN Philippines earlier today, Lustre has more up her sleeves with thriller Greed in production. And alongside other celebrities, the 28-year-old has a new business that's right up her lane as a mental health advocate.
Something that I haven't really done before. Very interesting script story. Well, the title is Greed, so it's a thriller film. It's that kind of film that will make you think afterwards. You know, the kind of film that kind of lives rent free in your head after watching it, and you kind of just wanna watch it again. So I'm working on this company called Mind You. It's with Yasi Pressman and Liza Soberano. It's a platform that will make therapists or psychologists, psychiatrists easier to, access, and making it much more cheaper.
Now, in the interview, the star also talked about plans to move to Siargao Island in Surigao del Norte, a place that has helped with her mental wellness. Swifties are also gearing up for an exciting return. One of Taylor Swift's award-winning albums is getting re-released tomorrow. Red Taylor's version includes 30 tracks. Among these is a duet with Ed Sheeran and a much-awaited 10-minute version of All Too Well. Taylor fever has also reached the Empire State Building in New York, which, as you can see, lit up in red in anticipation of the album's arrival. Swift is re-recording her previous albums to gain control over her discography after her songs were sold to another music producer without her consent. It is 44 days before Christmas, and that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Dynasties and surveys, two things in Philippine politics we both can't seem to live with and can't live without. Tonight, we'll try to make sense of them. Good evening, I'm Yon Bells. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guests for tonight, professional statistician and senior research fellow at the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, Dr. Jose Ramon Albert, House Deputy Speaker in Cebu, 3rd District Representative Pablo John Garcia, and the Dean of the Ateneo School of Government, Dr. Ronald Mendoza. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the show. We're going to speak to you one by one, but first we're going to start with Dr. Jose Ramon Toots Albert. And the question here, the big question tonight is how reliable are surveys? Dr. Albert, of course, one of the country's, like we said, top statisticians, a former Benedictine monk, and a cancer survivor. Dr. Albert, I first listened to you, a talk of yours in the Jaime Ongpin annual memorial lecture about a week or so ago, and I thought it was a very definitive guide to surveys. Although it was a 1.5 hour to a close to 2 hour talk, we're going to attempt to squeeze all that down to 8 minutes tonight. So we'll talk about surveys for elections. So let's begin with this, Dr. Albert. What kind of survey should we be wary of? What kind of survey should we be scared of, and why?
Well, let me just say that the ones that you should trust are probability surveys. There are other surveys that are being conducted that try to give a picture of just the respondents, but they do not necessarily represent the entire country. So these are the surveys that you should be worried about. The things like internet surveys, surveys through text, because they do not they were not designed to give a good representation of the voice of the people throughout the country. Whenever you conduct a survey, essentially you need to make sure of representativeness. By design, you have to be very careful. So I would say not all surveys are equally good in terms of design and implementation.
Okay, by design. So hindi pwedeng random picking, like you don't go out into the street and then stop someone para mag-man on the street interview. Hindi ganon, no? That's not what we mean.
Well, yeah, the thing is when you're doing that, when you say you're randomly picking on man on the street, the question there is how sure are you that you're really doing something random, or you think it's random but it's actually not. What you need to really do is have a protocol to actually select the respondents so that each respondent represents a certain group of people throughout the country. Unless you're able to do that, then I'm sorry to say that whatever results will just be representing the ones that you actually who responded to your survey, but they do not necessarily give a picture of what's really happening in the country.
Okay, what about Google Trends or, social media, the number of likes or retweets on Twitter, the number of shares or likes or loves on Facebook or Instagram, for example? That's not like a survey either, right?
Yes, again, that's not reliable because the problem with things that are on social media is, first, not everybody's connected to the net. Second is, even if you think of Google, let's say you're trying to look at Google Trends, the problem there is that not everybody even knows how to Google, even if you're on the net. So you are, again, not getting a good reading of the entire country. You're missing out on, that's called a coverage error. You're missing out on the people who are not the people who know.
All right, we have a little bit of a problem with... Okay, you're back, Dr. Toots Albert. Okay, Dr. Albert, I wanted to ask you, let's define surveys, no? And then we're going to show, and that's why I referred to your talk at the JVO Annual Memorial Lecture, because we're going to use a lot from your PowerPoint presentation there. Let's define surveys first.
Yeah, well, a survey is supposed to be a way by which you collect data on a target population. the thing is, when you're doing a survey, you need to make sure that you're estimating, let's say, a percentage in the entire population. So you have to design it very carefully so that your respondents, the ones that that are part of your survey, will actually be representing a larger group of people in the population.
Okay. And can you tell us what the uses are? Because, usually people think survey, pang election lang yan. No? We just, so that we can know kung sino nangunguna sa presidential race, for example. Hindi lang pang ganun, ano?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we always connote surveys with opinion polls, but actually there are a lot of surveys. Even government conducts surveys to get, for instance, a reading of the economic performance, to find out the inflation. So there are regular surveys conducted by government and by the private sector. And even the usual the usual outfits that you consider doing the opinion polls, they actually collect much more than just voter sentiment. They will also collect other things like, for instance, hunger statistics being collected by SWS, among other things.
The PITIC survey ng gobyerno, halimbawa?
The what? Sorry?
PITIC, you said? During that lecture?
Yes. The thing is, yes, exactly. So there are surveys that try to measure in government what's known as PITIC, presyo, trabajo, kita. So presyo means prices for getting information on inflation, trabajo, jobs, and kita. Trabajo, this is usually done again by the government agency called the Philippine Statistics Authority that does the labor force survey regularly. It used to do it every quarter, but now they're doing it on a monthly basis. And so with kita, when you think of income, there might be a way for you to think of national income from the GDP, the gross domestic product. But that uses various types of data sources. Surveys are used, but also administrative data, among other things.
I wonder how fast we can go through this question, Dr. Albert. What are the pros and cons, the good and bad of surveys?
Well, the thing is, if they're designed well, they can be able to give you very good information on what you're trying to get a picture of. For instance, whether it's the economy, whether it's voter sentiment, whether it's poverty, hunger, name it, because the thing is, we cannot always do a census. You cannot always wait until election day to figure out who's going to win. You need to get a sense, just like even going, for instance, to the hospital. You don't need to extract all your blood to determine if you're okay or not, Yeah, just a blood sample should be good enough, provided that the sample is representative. So that's the whole point. The thing is, the negative thing is that sometimes surveys, they do have not just what are known as sampling error. Sampling error is, they may not necessarily be 100% accurate in estimating the corresponding population parameter, like the percentages. But there may be also instances when people may misunderstand the question, or perhaps they do not respond to a question, in which case you have to make some adjustments. Or perhaps there might be some other errors, like even the interviewer himself may be forcing you to say something, or you may be afraid to express your opinions to somebody who's asking questions. So there are all of these extra things that are complicating the data. But by and large, if you have a survey outfit that's actually designed its survey well and implemented its survey well, and of course is transparent in case there might be some funding sources because it has costs, So you need to also make sure that you have to, there should be full transparency from these survey outfits.
And of course, Dr. Toots, that joke about not having all your blood extracted on just the sample, that refers to one of your statements that we should trust surveys that have like 2,000 or 1,200 respondents, like SWS and Pulse Asia, because they represent, because they do represent something. So mali din pala ang sinasabi ng politiko na the only opinion poll that matters is the one on election day. Now, I had so many more questions, but however, Dr. Albert, I just wanted to ask you this na lang. We've heard of all these opinion polling firms here in the Philippines, and you made a listing of them. Can we go very quickly through them and tell us why it's important for us to know which of these firms are, and who are the credible ones?
Well, the thing is, for me, the point here is you have to look at track record. It's always easy to have new survey outfits come out, and I wouldn't trust them immediately unless they try to show. I mean, it's a question of trust. Nobody just, it would be foolish for us to just trust. You have to be skeptical of any surveys and survey outfits unless they have built their track records. So far, there have been two institutions, SWS and Pulse Asia, I mean, personally, that I would trust because they have shown very good track records. If you think of even the voting sentiment, people, the estimates of the proportion who will vote for a candidate tends to wobble. But towards the end, as it approaches election day, especially a month before election day, these two survey outfits have shown historically that they can do a very good job at estimating the actual percentages of people who will vote for candidates, so they can actually see not just for vice president, even vice president, and even the senators. I've studied them very carefully, and if you're interested, you can Google the lecture that you were referring to.
Yeah, well, we do have a slide on that, slide number 40. You'll find the election surveys versus the actual votes, and it shows how close Pulse Asia and SWS are. But anyway, Dr. Albert, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. But of course, when you say yung Pulse Asia and SWS trusted, no, paano na yung siyam na iba pa?
Well, as I said, yung mga iba, unfortunately, they have to show us. They have to give us first a sense of reliability. If their estimates are, and if they do a survey that's pretty close to when SWS and Pulse Asia did their surveys, and the numbers don't seem to be too far away, then I would probably think maybe, but let's wait let's wait a little bit more. I mean, they have to prove to us that they're doing a good job.
Alright, at sana may accreditation process na, no, para pati kami sa media alam na namin. But anyway, Dr. Toots Albert, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. From surveys, let's talk about political dynasties. Our second guest tonight comes from a well-known political clan in Cebu province. House Deputy Speaker Pablo John Garcia. And disclosure, my college batchmate at the Ateneo. Hi, Congressman PJ Garcia. Thank you very much for being with us. Well, let's begin with this. A definition of dynasty. Is that how you see your family? Would you say, yes, my family is a dynasty?
It's so difficult to answer that question because, I can say we are a political family. My father has been in politics for a long time. I've been in politics for a long time. My sister and I are in politics. But that's a fact. We're a political family. But when you say dynasty, if we do not have a working definition of what a dynasty is, then I cannot answer it with a yes or no. My answer would be a matter of opinion and not a matter of fact. So we have to have a working definition of what is a dynasty.
Yeah. Well, right now, like you said, no, it's you and your sister, Governor Gwen Garcia. Your father has passed away, but you had two brothers who were in politics also. But so meaning, dahil dalawa lang kayo, hindi kailangan dynasty ang tawag sa inyo, or what?
Again, it really depends on what is the definition of dynasty. Is it the mere fact that two family members are in public service? Is that make it a dynasty? No, because we are working on a concept that has no definition yet. So we'll have to define what is a dynasty.
Yeah. Well, what about this, Congressman PJ Garcia? If you bring progress to your city or your province, does that make you a good dynasty? And if that is the case, so then what would constitute a bad dynasty? A family that does not bring progress to its city or province?
Well, I think it goes back to the question of whether you are a good public servant or not. I think dynasty would be a difficult concept to work with, no? And the fact that you say that there are good dynasties and there may be bad dynasties, then I think we should let the electorate decide which public servants are good and which public servants are bad. So it would be difficult to come up with a blanket prohibition of dynasties even if it were possible to define what a political dynasty is.
Yeah. Well, in the next segment of the show, we're going to have a guest, Dean Ron Mendoza of the Ateneo School of Government, who will be trying his best to define dynasties. And then I'm going to ask you, PJ, to respond to that. But let's go on. Why is there this fixation or focus on families when it comes to politics? Is it because all politics is local, and in local politics, it's the family that really runs things?
I think it is a natural consequence of the fact that, yes, even when you're starting out a political career, you first start with your family, and then we expand, and we try to cultivate extended families for your political machinery. So I think it is a natural consequence of how politics is here in our country.
Article 2, Section 26 of the 1987 Constitution says, and we quote, "The state shall guarantee equal access to opportunities for public service and prohibit political dynasties as may be defined by law," unquote. I've covered the House of Representatives. I covered your dad a long time ago, and no way, I think, in heaven or hell will an anti-political dynasty measure ever get passed. Now, the question is that a fair and accurate statement? And the corollary question is, how can you legislate this prohibition against political dynasties without violating, as you believe, constitutional principles like equal protection?
Yes, precisely. I think the Constitutional Commission, the defect there is that the Constitutional Commission could not come up with a working definition of political dynasty and left it to future Congresses to legislate. Now, several Congresses after the passage of the Constitution, still we do not have a working definition of what a political dynasty is. And that's not only because, as perceived, members of the Congress mostly come from political families, but there is really a very practical difficulty in legislating and banning political dynasties without violating certain constitutional principles.
Yeah.
For example, for a House member, the Constitution expressly provides for the qualifications and disqualifications. Can a law add to the qualifications and disqualifications under the Constitution? Second, wouldn't it violate equal protection? Thus, my being a member of a political family, disqualify me, therefore, from entering politics or public service.
Yung nga ang problema sa as may be defined by law, yun tuloy, hindi na defined. So, itong, the question, like you said, and like we all have noticed, and I did my own counting for every Congress. I would count the number of representatives who are members of political families, and easily 2/3, 3/4 at most ang miyembro ng political family. So can we really do away with political families? And I have a feeling, just by the look on your face, you're going to say no. But also, I wanted to ask, and pahabol na ito, because today, just today, Sara Duterte withdrew her certificate of candidacy, COC for re-election as city mayor of Davao. And of course, there's a lot of speculation about that. She's going to go for higher office. Is it going to be BBM Sara BBM? And then, therefore, the question here is, the Garcias of Cebu, the political family, the Garcia political family of Cebu or Garcia political dynasty of Cebu, where are you going to be placing your bets for 2022?
Well, as Secretary General of our local party, One Cebu, we have already come up with a statement that we will decide on national alliances and our national candidates well after the November 15 a deadline for substitution, no? Because as you can see, for practical purposes, you can see that the situation is very fluid. No? We don't know eventually who will be the candidates and who will be withdrawing and who will be substituting. So, for practical purposes, our local party will have to wait until the deadline for the substitution, which is on November 15.
Right, Congressman PJ Garcia of Cebu, thank you very much for joining us. And like I said, please stay till the end of the show. More from our guests when we return. This is Politics as Usual. We're on our final stretch. This is Politics as Usual. Our third guest for tonight is the Dean of the Ateneo School of Government, Dr. Ronald Mendoza. Good evening, Dean Ron. Thank you very much for being with us. Is there such a thing as a good dynasty and a bad dynasty? Or they're all bad? Or as long as they don't field so many people, so many relatives in one election, good sila or whatever. At the same time, and we're going to be showing slides from your own PowerPoint presentation about dynasties. Talk to us about this definition that you want to present, no? Fat dynasties and thin dynasties. Sorry, ang daming tanong in one question.
Where to start? First of all, thank you very much, Pia, for the kind invitation. And permit me to speak in Taglish, so hopefully to communicate better to our people. Alam nyo kasi, yung tanong nung good or bad ba yung dynasty, medyo nakakatawa yung tanong na yan para sa akin kasi matagal nang tinatanong yan, no? Paano ba tayo napunta dito sa kailangan patunayan ng mga akademiko na bad yung dynasty para sa sistema natin when in fact the framers of our constitution called for the creation of a law to define dynasties as part of the reform that was supposed to have been pushed as part of our democratic governance.
Yeah.
So the failure of our Congresses to deliver on that law and that definition is the starting point of our conversation.
Oh.
It is supposed to be called for in the Constitution, and they have not actually acted on it.
But you couldn't
right?
also expect them to legislate against themselves, hindi ba? Like I was saying kanina, 2/3, 3/4 of any one Congress is political families.
Exactly. And so it boils down, Pia, to us academics and independent thinkers being forced to make the case again to this nation and to our leaders na nakakasama tong dynastic leadership pattern sa ating demokrasya.
Okay.
At merong ebidensya na yan nga ang nangyayari. Habang dumadami ang fat dynasty, dinefine namin yan as those political clans with 2 and above family members. Pagka yan ang definition at nakikita natin yan sa iba-ibang parte ng bansa, humihirap yung lugar at nawawalan ng development push, nagkakaroon ng greater poverty and underdevelopment, particularly if you are outside of Metro Manila. Yan
sa mga liblib na lugar.
Empirical findings.
Yung Fat Dynasty,
and of course,
Dean Ron, yung Fat Dynasty, yung tinatawag na nga ninyo, and we have a slide, your slide to show that, no? Sabay-sabay. Tapos Thin Dynasty is sunod-sunod. Parang ini-inherit yung posisyon, and it can go downwards or upwards, or sideways. Magulang, anak, kapatid, in-law, di ba?
Yes, yeah. Yes, and in fact pareho lang ini-inherit. Magkaiba lang dahil yung sunod-sunod may konti pang delikadesa kasi ayaw nilang tumakbo ng sabay-sabay. So ang ginagawa nila orderly, nagsusunod-sunod lang sila, si lolo, si anak, si apo, hindi sila nagsasabay-sabay. Ngayon, sa ibang lugar, sabay-sabay na yung magkapatid, mag-ama, mag-ina, mag-asawa. Nagkakaroon tuloy ng Fat Dynasty, and that is the definition and pattern that is most associated with poverty and underdevelopment. Talagang pag nagsabay-sabay, nagkakaroon ng weaker checks and balances ang local government at nagkakaroon ng impunity, corruption, even violence, and definitely underdevelopment ang nangyayari.
Dean Ron, you have this table, no? Fat Dynasty percentage of total officials in province 2019, and the number 1 province here is Maguindanao, 50.54%, ranked 1.
Yes, and it's important to point out na hindi lang nasa south yan. Meron din tayo mga Fat Dynasty sa north at sa
Well,
Visayas.
Ilocos Norte
no?
is here, ranked 10. Cavite,
Yes.
ranked 14. La Union, ranked 17.
Yes. Maraming halimbawa, Pia, at nakikita natin that it has nothing to do with the Muslim South or that particular characteristic. In fact, meron ding mga halimbawa sa North, sa Visayas. Basta nagkaroon ng sabay-sabay na panunungkulan, napakahirap ng isipin na magkakaroon ng accountability. Una, kasi wala nang checks and balances. Magkakasabay na kayo makapangyarihan eh. Sino pa magsusuheto sa inyo kung mali yung ginagawa ninyo? So usually yung mga fat dynasty associated with corruption and impunity and underdevelopment. Yan ang nakikitang pattern. Pangalawa, pagka hindi na pinagpipilian natin, dapat sana yung matino at mahusay, pero ang pinagpipilian na lang, iilang pamilya. So napakahirap isipin na pumipili pa tayo ng mahusay at matinong pinuno who are capable of responding to the challenges, the deep challenges that we are facing as a nation, particularly now in a pandemic situation. Dapat sana yung pinakamahusay, pinakamatino, pinakamay kakayahan, pinakamay integridad, pero hindi yan ang paraan natin ng pagpili. Ang pagpili natin, yung mga makapangyarihang pamilya, sila-sila ang nagpipilian kung sino sa kanila tatakbo.
Pero meron din namang mahusay sa mga political families. But also, you know what? Ubus na oras natin. So ang pattern natin, mag-OT na naman tayo. And I wanted to ask PJ, and I asked him to stay pa naman to the end of the show. PJ, you want to say something? Pero 10 seconds. 10, 9.
Yes, you cannot generalize, Pia. No? I don't know. I have not seen the presentation of the good professor, but like in Cebu, for instance, the governor is my sister. I'm just one of 8 congressmen in the province of Cebu. So are we a fat dynasty? Is Cebu among those? So it is so difficult, to generalize on these things.
Yeah, PJ, I'll send you his presentation.
Yeah. I'm very interested to look at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Happy to give a briefing to Congressman Garcia.
Thank you very much to our guest tonight. Earlier, Dr. Toots Albert, Congressman PJ Garcia of Cebu, and Dean Ron Mendoza of the Ateneo School of Government. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare, but we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.